Hi, welcome to this week's GMBN Tech Show. Coming up on the show this week,
we've got some new Trick Stuff brakes.
New Pirelli tyres as well.
Some brake pads that cost nearly €200.
Oh, don't get me started. And some of the cool bikes and tech that covered the Grand Tour Divide. Okay, so the topic this week is Anna's grand opportunity to sell me on bikepacking and adventure riding and all this stuff, which I'm secretly really actually interested in. But
I'm not sure this is going to sell anyone on bikepacking because the Tour Divide, for anyone who doesn't know, is about 3,000 miles of riding self-supported, and it's 200,000 feet. Yeah, that's right, 200,000 feet of climbing. That's Everesting seven times.
That's actually ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
And bear in mind, the winner has just crossed the finish line not long ago in just over 14 days. So work that out. It's about 215 miles a day.
And that's
rocking up.
Yeah, and that's not like easy days in the saddle with a nice night's sleep either. You're talking about sleeping in gutters and anything possible to get back on the track again.
And don't get me wrong, the views are stunning, but when you're seeing them from aero bars all day and that view doesn't change, I don't know if that's going to sell it on. But it was particularly hardcore this year. So they start in Banff in Canada, and they started in snow. People were getting pulled for hypothermia. It was hardcore. And then the Tour Divide finishes on the US-Mexico border. So that's how they rack up the 3,000 miles. And I was just interested to see what someone chooses in terms of a bike and technology for a 3,000 mile trip. You know, do they go for aero? Do they go for lightweight? Are they choosing mountain bikes, or are they choosing gravel bikes? Because a lot of it's just dirt road. Well, I mean, first up, I just want to say the reason I love this race is for the bikes and the variety. You know, you get everything from a rigid XE carbon 29er racing in the same race as someone who is on a fat bike, like a steel fat bike. It's like anything goes, and most people are running bikes they've owned for a few years. Even the pro has had his bike for a couple of years. So it's really interesting, but I did a bit of digging, and the ratio of drop bars to flat bars was actually about 50-50 in terms of overall. But when we look at the head, the pointy end of the race, it's pretty much flat bar 29ers. And mainly carbon hardtails with rigid forks, which surprised me, but I guess from my own experience, having a lot of luggage on the front means those suspension forks aren't doing a hell of a lot when it's all loaded up anyway.
Yeah, and you've got to think as well, they're sort of those XC marathon hardtails, they are kind of quite forgiving. They're not always like super rigid bikes, so a little element of comfort about them.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the mountain bike tyres, obviously having a bigger volume, will be a lot more forgiving, and you can control that as well as time and days go on. I also saw that there was a single speed category. Can you believe that?
No, well, I mean, to be fair, most of this event makes little sense to me anyway, because you've got to be a very specific type of human being to even consider the prospect of doing a single speed. You're just crazy horse.
Both men and women, and actually I should point out the lady running in second place. I couldn't find her Instagram to show you a picture, but she's on a 7 Evergreen, which is a Thai drop bar single speed. So that's what she's running. She's currently in second. Not finished yet, but I think she's probably going to do it. And then just to have a look at inside the top 20 at the fastest bikes of the Tour Divide, we've got the guy who's just won it, Sofiane Saheli, probably saying that terribly wrong. Also the winner of the French Divide, the Italy Divide, the Inca Divide. He did it in just over 14 days on a Vitus Rapide. So this is an XE bike. You can get it in carbon spec, but it's I would say a budget-friendly hardtail.
I'd agree, yeah. So
carbon sub
under 2
2K,
grand.
yeah. Really good. He's converted it to 1x11, so 1x11 ain't dead. He says he was just saving his 12 speed for a later race that he needed the gnarlier climbing.
So he's doing this on a budget, literally, then saving his more expensive 12-speed for a more fitting race.
Yeah, the winner is having to like scrape together parts for these kind of things. Also, if we look up to second place, so Manu is on a Chiru Divider, which is Thai mountain bike frame, and he's chosen RockShox Rebas, so he's gone for nothing flashy.
Frame should be comfortable, fork's going to work.
Yeah,
Happy
exactly.
days.
I feel like you're picking reliability a lot of the time over sort of lightweight raciness of this sort of event. And then Adrian Lechty, who's come third, was on a Salsa Cutthroat. Now this is he's running it flat bar with 29er forks, rigid, but the Cutthroat actually is a drop bar, so he's converted his, and the Cutthroat is probably one of the most popular bikes I saw. And it's like a gravel bike, a drop bar bike, but it's mountain bike frame, basically, technology. So yeah, with loads of bosses all over it. And then just a shout out to Wendy Stevenson, who has just won. She won it on a Pivot Les 27.5, so basically a 27.5 small wheel version of the Pivot Les carbon hardtail, which is quite a race bike, but she's been doing this sort of thing on that same bike for the last 4 years with her same 1x11 drivetrain, presumably a new chain and cassette at some stage.
I would assume that, yeah. Okay, so into news, and first up, some old looking stuff. From my perspective, the Marin Instagram account posted this amazing picture, which at a glance does look like an old bike, but it's not. It's a brand new bike. I'm just looking at it here. The paint job on this is unreal. So it's a lovely nod to the original old Pine FRS, which was a full suspension version of the Pine Mountain, one of their most classic mountain bikes. You've got to remember that Marin bikes they hail from Marin County, and a lot of the bike names were named after places in the area, including Pine Mountain. So this one here, it's based on the old Manitou FRS style design bike, where they pretty much cut and shut the back end of a bike and chopped a pair of suspension forks in there on the seat stays, which at the time was absolute genius, because they were great at making a suspension fork, and why bother trying to make a shock when you already make something you can put on the back of the bike. It was an awesome concept, but I love the way that this one has been painted up, and even the seat stays on it look a little bit like, at a glance, that it's got the suspension forks on, as you can see. Pirelli Scorpion tyres. So we've seen the early models of these tyres. We saw some prototype versions when we were out at Sea Otter, which were, don't know what the compound was on the prototypes you saw, they felt extremely soft. But now it seems like they're really going full bore into their tyre design. So as you can see on screen, you can hopefully see the exploded carcass view of the tyres. So you've got new Enduro and EMTB lines, so it seems to be really sort of focusing towards that market. I'm sure you're going to hear the EMBN boys talking about this stuff soon. So you've got soft terrain, rear and mixed terrain options in the way that they format the tyres. The really soft rubber compound, which they actually say on their press release is around 50A, but I'm sure that the ones we felt were softer, or perhaps they're just measuring them slightly differently. But either way, the ones that we saw previously at Sea Otter just felt amazing. So I'd definitely say that the Automotive brand are definitely here to stay in mountain biking. With Fabien Barel behind them, I think that's it. They're in safe hands for development. So they've also got two casings available. They've got what they call hardwall, which is B2B protection. That's the one you can see the shot of, and you can see the rubber butyl inserts on the sidewalls. And we've seen these on other tyres, like the Vittorias that we use, have the similar sort of concept there. So we know that's a really good system. But they also have what they call the Pro Wall. So for someone who needs protection, but they want the tyre to have just a little bit more feel, like that hardwall one will feel more like a thick enduro casing tyre. And the Pro Wall, which is this one, you can see just a bit lighter, and it's still got reinforcing inserts on there. Expect to see more stuff coming soon from Pirelli tyres. I think it's pretty cool. I like it when automotive brands are coming into cycling. Like Continental have been kind of away for a while, and they've come back with their tyres. And
well, they do really well on the road, don't they?
Amazingly on the road, yeah. So, the Pirelli tyres are supposed to be absolutely incredible.
But they're almost synonymous with good performance on the road, which is why I've always been surprised we never really talk about them off-road, but it's good to see them back.
Yeah.
Right, now, next up is something that's going to get a lot of you talking / moaning, I reckon, in the comments. Cinta, now it's not a new brand, they have been around for a few years, but they brought out a new model, and check this out. It's basically titanium brake pads with a gold clip and pin as well. So yeah, 24 karat gold. How much do you think they are? The pin and the clip is...
brake pads. Brake pads, yeah. The things you're literally wearing as you're using.
So 169.95 euros for a full set.
That's not for like a subscription for the whole year, no?
That is two pairs of pads, front and back. You know, you wouldn't just do one.
Why are you fishing for some expensive brakes and pads? Would you just happen to find the two most expensive brakes and pads to talk about?
You know, Christmas isn't that far away. If you want to get me something.
Oh, well, you're not one of them, are you? It's just like, you know, Christmas is just gone and you're like, oh, it's only like 85 shopping days till Christmas.
Anyway, if that's, you know, too much of a bargain for you, you can spend 189.95 on and get them delivered in a nice personalised wooden box. I'm not sure why you would do that, but
well, I guess when they wear out, you can put them back in the box and look at them.
So these are optimised for road, gravel and XC Shimano calipers, basically. So your XTR, your Dura-Race and your GRX. And they say that titanium means that they will fade less and be more silent. I don't know what the gold is for, presumably just for fancy pantsness.
I have absolutely no idea what it's for. All I can think of with these, what you could do with them is build the most expensive bike you possibly can.
Excellent.
Maybe we should do that.
Yes.
Just completely build the most insane bike. I feel like GCN or someone has done that before.
They must too.
Let's price one up, just maybe for a topic. We'll try and virtually build the most expensive bike we can.
Yeah. How expensive can you get?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the titanium backing plates, all right, there's some common sense to that, but still, so expensive with brake pads.
Yeah.
Pretty insane stuff. Next up, a total flip side change. Wade Simmons, the godfather of freeride, he's now making chain loops. Or he has his name on some chain loops that someone's making. But seriously, Wade is a great guy. He rides in some really, really tricky conditions on the North Shore, often wet. So I'm sure over the years he's ridden quite a lot of lubes and has some good feedback to developing stuff. So check this out though. So the old send it phrase for his lubes now says lube it and send it. Take that as you want when you're trying to sell lubes. Obviously these are chain lubes here. So he's doing lubes and greases, currently only in Canada, but will be expanding to the US. I'm gonna get in touch with Wade and see if he'll send us some. Keen to see it, he's a great guy. Lube for wet, dry and e-bike specific, so high tenacity, highly viscous, designed to penetrate and protect chains with high torque. I think it's kind of interesting stuff. The branding's cool, and actually Wade is so good on a bike and does know a lot about bikes, so I feel like I kind of trust him to get involved with this.
Yeah, well he lives in North Shore, doesn't he? North Vancouver, yeah. So similar weather to here in sunny Britain. Yeah. So I'm sure he's tested it to the max. So Acto 5, so you know these guys from the CNC machine high pivot bike, which
beautiful bikes.
Beautiful, and it seems to be going viral on our YouTube shorts at the moment. I don't know if you noticed. But they have brought out some signature cranks, so check these out. They are a two-piece hollow crank arm construction, so they should be stiff and light. They weigh in at 475 grams, claimed weight. Just for reference, that's probably about, XT is around about 540, so a little shy of them. And they are basically anodized in silver or black, or you can mix and match with a silver and black finish, and they come in 170 millimeters or 165, which I'm really keen on. I'm glad someone's still keeping that alive. And yeah, they will be priced at 690 euros, not cheap, but you do get a 10% pre-order discount if you fancy it.
Do you know what? Like, yeah, they're expensive, but they're just unashamedly beautiful. I think they're just gorgeous. And if you're looking at these cranks of any sort of desire, like you're the sort of person that probably wants to buy them, so you're probably not that fussy about the price.
What is it about as soon as you see that little CNC machine, like a game of snakes, just had its
everything
way with
that
something?
brand has
I'm
touched.
just like interested.
Right, everything they do is just beautiful design.
Yeah,
love it. Yeah. In fact, we're going to throw the Instagram handle down there, so give them a follow and check all the other cool stuff out they're doing. All right, quiz time. 3 quiz questions coming at you. Hopefully you've been paying attention to the show so far. First question, what is anodizing? Second question, Wade Simmons was named the godfather of free riding, winning the first ever Red Bull Rampage in Utah. But what year was it? And the last question, what suspension brand famously used a pair of suspension forks as the rear seat stays on a frame as an alternative to other full suspension frames? We'll pick up the answers in a bit.
Okay, it's comments time from last week's show, and we were talking about all things pedal kickback. I'm wondering if it keeps you up at night. And we've got Rob Chastain here who said, I'm more of a roadie, but no restless nights, sorry. Still sleeping soundly despite all this drama over pedal kickback, and I'll keep watching the GMBN Tech Show and kicking back myself.
See what you did there. Jerome Westwood says, I think a small amount of pedal kickback is good, because as you go into suspension, the pedal kickback is helping you drive forward by keeping the crank straight.
Yeah,
I'm kind of with you. That's something that I really noticed doing a chainless versus chain run. It wasn't necessarily a kickback, it's exactly that. It's that tension you can use.
Yeah, I've got Davey B, MTB, who said, I rode in Fort William last year and knocked my mech, so I rode the second half of the woods with no chain. It felt awful. I felt like my back wheel was really heavy, and this was on an enduro bike. Personally, pedal kickback gives me a sense of where my back wheel is and therefore control, and an O-chain would not work for me. So he's basically saying he doesn't like not having pedal kickback, is what he's saying.
Yeah. I mean, I'd also imagine just going in that, not disagreeing with your points, but when that sort of thing happens, it's going to throw you out as well.
Yeah.
And with your unfamiliarity, you're like, whoa, this is pretty crazy. Next up from GoGo MTB. I feel those instant engagement hubs provoke kickback, so I went for a 10-degree engagement, got used to it, and I'm happy with the rear shock sensitivity too. I like to unweight my bikes after an impact due to chain tension for potential manuals or hopping over terrain. You're not the only one. Quite a lot of people like a little bit more rotation. I'm not fussed either way. I've got to say on some bikes I have noticed it having like a closer engagement, although I've just put a bike together for a bike build with 0.52 degrees of rotation between engagement points and 690 points for engagement.
Think of the
they're
pedal
insane.
kickback on that.
Yeah, this bike doesn't have any of that though, so it's all good.
So we've got left a roundabout. It's an overcomplicated solution to a non-problem. He's not liking these O-chain and devices for pedal kickback. So at least when clipped in, kickback should not pose any sort of trouble to an accomplished rider. And non-accomplished riders don't ride fast enough for this to happen in the first place. Ooh, burn.
Yeah, do you know what? Like, you're kind of right, but also that might suggest, I don't know this, that you've not ridden a bike that's got really bad pedal kickback to go, oh my God, it's awful.
You know about it.
The first time I rode one, it was a Kona. It was a Stinky or a Stab Deluxe downhill frame that had really high pivot that should have actually had an idler wheel at the time. I think the later bikes did. And I remember landing from a drop and literally my feet going back like a ridiculous amount. I was thinking like, oh, how is this a rideable bike? I mean, this is probably in like 2002 or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Things have come on a long way.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I was just going to say. I think we are really lucky with the quality of bikes these days that have sort of, we've had over 20 years to tune that sort of thing out. So, yeah. So Bugboy15 says, seems like too small of a problem to spend money on and add more weight to my bike. Give me more products to make things simple. The irony.
Yeah.
Can I have more to make things simple?
Feels like we need to build a bike with like the most amount of technical things on it possible. Be crazy.
Or do versus the least amount of technical and see what we think.
That's quite a cool spin. I like that.
Just came to me.
And the last comment, this one did make me grin as well because I could feel the pain here. This is from the Broken Mountain Biker. He says, I fitted a modern 1x12 onto my old orange Patriot, the later 2012 one, and the clutch on the mat used to make the suspension feel like it was sticky. Yep, there you go. So it's acting like a low-speed damper almost. Almost like the pivot bearing was stiff, even though it wasn't. Also, the pedal kickback when in the lower gears was hideous. If you hit something hard as going uphill, the kickback was so strong it would stop you dead. My current bike, a 2021 Kelly's Swag 50. So I don't know much about Kelly's bikes, but I've only heard good things about them so far. If anyone else has got a Kelly's bike, I'd love to just hear from you. They look pretty cool. I can't feel any kickback at all on that. I guess that's just progress in the suspension design. I think it's a completely different back end on that.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not
a linkage, isn't it? The Kelly's bike. Pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean it might not just be progress because obviously single pivot designs like that orange are still about and people still love them. It's not progress. It's just different. It's like we've got so much choice at the moment. It's neither bad nor good. It's just what you fancy. Some people love a single pivot with tons of kickback.
Yeah, uphill kickback for the win.
But it's a good point to. He pointed out the gearing there. I mean, you can drop down into a harder gear when you're descending, so it's a smaller ring, so the smaller sort of pull on the chain will give you less kickback, maybe, or less feeling of kickback. Do you think?
I guess on a bike
that has a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, on a bike that's quite pronounced, like the earlier Patriots, like that, it's just about getting your chain, basically your chain on as close as you possibly can to that pivot point, really. And yeah, I haven't said what size your chainring is, but if your chainring's like a 30 tooth and your pivot's all the way over here, you're going to get a bit of kickback.
Oh, fair enough. But there you go.
That's the way it goes.
Well, that's it. Mic drop from our viewers. Okay, so some stuff from the viewers. I thought I'd put a rewind in there for you.
I love a rewind.
Yeah, especially for you, this is. But this piqued my attention. It's an old 90s Kona. So sent in from Ryan. It's his 1994 Kona Lava Dome. Over lockdown, I got the itch to build a retro MTB. I can't remember from one when he was back younger, sorry. Trawling the internet, he's found a lava dome. I got all the parts together and set out on this new build. And basically, long story short, he loved it so much, he took it on the 75-mile Tour de Broads with a good friend of his, and they really enjoyed riding past all of the expensive roadie bikes who were fixing punctures as he was just sailing past on his old lava dome. I kind of half picked this because Ryan, you said, truly this is one for Doddy. Sorry, Anna. Actually, when I started in 2008, I really wanted a Kona explosive, one of the steel bikes, and it was exactly the same kind of colour as that. And actually, the more I've got into biking, the more I wanted sort of a mid-90s Kona explosive, which was even
So
more.
what she's saying is basically she does like old tat. After all, but I'm not suggesting that that's old tat, because I actually love. A friend of mine had a 14-inch one of these because I think it was the smallest adult-sized mountain bike you could buy at the time in the 90s, and he had one. As soon as he got it, like all of us in our riding group growing up, we were so jealous. STX RC on there. I see you've got a shark fin on yours, which is cool. If you know what a shark fin is, in the days of triple chain rings and a right old mess down by the bottom bracket there, the shark fin would stick on the chainstay. And when the chain tried to go between the tyre and the chainstay, basically it would just hook it. Nice. So it wouldn't go down there. It was just a bit of plastic, basically, but it said Shimano XT on it, so everyone loved them. But yeah, sick. Yeah. It's really nice to see. Classic Project 2 forks. And that was one of those Kona bikes when Kona used to make their own front and rear tyres. They were the first bike brand to do it, before even like Panaracer and others. Panaracer introduced the Dart front tyre much later. Kona did Maximum Reaction, Equilibrium, Propulsion, and some other ones that I can't remember. But they were doing all their own accessories way before anyone else. I think that's largely thanks to Joe Murray, who used to design for them. It was the British Racing Green that got me, and the skinny tubes, but stuck with it because he's still loving it after just a lockdown build. And wow, I can't believe you found this. We've got a Duncan cock to look at. So this is from the era of hardcore hardtails, the first time round. So like hardcore hardtails are still really popular, sort of a 140 to 160-ish fork on the front. The bike's not aimed at anything except just ripping down hills. But there was a whole freeride era that happened. So this is the Duncan frame. There was also the Nikolai, I forget the model, but they made a really cool hardtail. And there was also the Evil Imperial that had the twin top tubes. And Evil later then kind of split, because they used to make a chain guide, and the chain guide company turned into E13. And then the bike company turned into just Evil bikes. But look at this, it's got a Super Monster T on the front. 12-inch travel on the front, 300mm travel fork on the front of a hardtail. God.
That looks so fighty.
So you feel nothing at the front end, and you feel everything at the back end. And maybe that's why the bike was called Cock, because you just get kicked up the...
Definitely.
When you hit a bump.
But I also like the fact that he's got the sort of motocross padding or BMX padding on the handlebars, like for all your huck to flats when you like headbang the stem.
I absolutely love it. I think it's rad. some double track rims. So these rims with the tyres of the era, it was quite often you need like the metal motocross style tyre levers to get tyres on them. And I remember fitting, I've probably said this before, I fitted some intense, they were 4-ply tyres way back onto a set of those rims and we could never get them off. We just left them on there. So they're floating around somewhere. One of those, a 24-inch one with a 3-inch intense tyre, probably still on there somewhere. It would never get a puncture though, because that thing was just ridiculous. And then the classic Tioga seat on there. And
the old red E13 chain guide there as well.
Yeah, classic. The Super Monster T4, isn't it the most bonkers thing you've ever seen?
Oh, that is mental.
Yeah, 12-inch
I
treble.
think this is a Blake video in the workings,
100%,
isn't it? Needs to build up a modern day version of that, or just ride one of those, I think.
I think there's a couple of videos, even trying to build up something like that would be cool, to see one with an old 300mm travel fork. Yeah, and then build like a real cool modern equivalent. That's a great idea. Maybe we could sort of build the modern equivalent for him and then he can like rip it over on GMBN.
Sounds good.
That'd be well good. Love it. See, it's not just old tat, it's great stuff from the golden era of mountain biking. Now, if you've got anything good, the link is right there. There's another one down there to click on. Please do send us stuff in. We love talking about this stuff on the show.
So, quiz answers. Number 1 was what is anodizing? It's basically the action of coating a metal with a protective oxide layer. This is done by electrolytic process, which basically allows the metal to form an anode and protects it from scratching.
And it makes it nice colours.
Yeah. And then Wade Simmons, the godfather of freeriding, won his first ever Rampage. But what year? It was 2001, which you should know because it was the 20th anniversary last year. What suspension brand famously used a pair of suspension forks as the rear seat stay on a frame as an alternative to full sus? It was Manitou, like the one you see on screen.
Yeah. Do you know, I know we keep talking about ideas and stuff, but I wonder if we could do a modern day version of one of them.
Oh no.
I mean, I can't weld or do anything like that, but maybe we could team up and do it with someone. Wouldn't that be pretty cool? Get a pair of suspension forks and just like
literally see it happen.
Cutting a chunk out the back of a bike.
And just putting some forks in there.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to make, they didn't literally do that. They would have custom machined the forks to actually work with the back end of a bike. But I wonder if you could kind of bodge one in.
Hey, Blake could build us a frame, couldn't he? Where you could like put a
steer
tube in one.
No, he did that very well. I slagged him off for it for a short term until I went riding with him and I was like, yeah, hands off, mate. That's really cool.
If that's the crab, what would be the double forks? I don't know. Leave your answers on a postcard or in the comments below. But yeah, anyway, that's enough waffling from us two, isn't it?
Plenty, as always, unfortunately, yeah. Thanks for watching.
See you again
See you later. Bye.